Every step of the way, we walk the line. Your days are numbered, so are mine. Time is piling up. We struggle and we scrape. We're all boxed in, nowhere to escape. City's just a jungle, more games to play. Trapped in the heart of it, trying to get away. I was raised in the country. I've been working in the town. I've been in trouble ever since I let my suitcase down. Got nothing for you. I had nothing before. Don't even have anything for myself anymore. Sky full of fire, pain pouring down. Nothing you can sell me. I'll see you around. All my powers of expression and thoughts so sublime could never do you justice in reason or rhyme. Only one thing that I did wrong, stayed in Mississippi a day too long. Welcome to Songs of Experience, a Bob Dylan podcast where we explore the man and the music one song at a time. I'm your host, Henry Bernstein, and I'm really honored and a little starstruck to welcome the curious, creative, consistently compelling scholar, musician, queen of Bob Dylan podcasting, my friend and yours, definitely Dylan herself, Laura Tenschert, here to finally bring 2001's Love and Theft to the podcast with Mississippi. Hello, Laura.
Thank you, Henry. What a lovely introduction.
You're welcome.
That's
You're
very
welcome.
kind of you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, you are definitely, I'm not going to blow too much smoke up your try not to, but you are definitely someone that I admire and look up to and have for many years. And I would say you along with Rob Kelly and Michael Glover Smith are a big reason why I'm doing this. You know, you were so in those early days of the pandemic on Twitter and just so warm and welcoming to me into the Bob Dylan conversation and really like opened up that idea that like, wow, there are people all over the world who are as sick for Bob Dylan as I am and want to yap about him as much as possible. So thank you.
Thank you. That's really nice.
So, many of your listeners of Definitely Dylan know your Bob Dylan origin story, and maybe you've heard you other places talk about it. But for our folks at home, could you tell us your Bob Dylan origin story?
Yeah, sure. Where to start? Where to begin? How far do we want to go back? So, I mean, usually the moment that I give as the catalyst for becoming a really big Bob Dylan fan was when my teacher in school asked me to sing in church. And he suggested I should do a Bob Dylan song, and he suggested I should do a song called Every Grain of Sand. And so he gave me a tape, like a copy tape of the album Shot of Love. And I remember he said, you should. He's like, is Bob Dylan's Christian album, and I was like, what? Bob Dylan has a Christian? I had a very vague idea of who Bob Dylan was, and that idea of Bob Dylan definitely didn't extend up to 1981. As far as I was aware, he was a '60s artist, because I think by that point I owned Freewheelin'. I think and that was basically like my idea of who Bob Dylan was. The folky singer-songwriter, very serious, very political. And yeah, then he gave me this tape of Shot of Love and said, you should really check this out. He did this. He had like a few albums where he was doing kind of gospel music or Christian music. Maybe you could sing the song. And then he said, I remember this one thing he said, his harmonica playing is really good on this. Like you might better than you might expect. In some way, he prepared me for the harmonica solos. And yeah, I took it home when I listened to the song, and there was just something about it that just like struck me deeply. I found it so affecting, and I think I was 16, something like that, maybe 15, 16, and I'm a native German speaker. My English certainly wasn't good enough to fully grasp how beautiful the lyrics to the song were. But there was something about it that I just found completely arresting and hypnotizing, and I actually quite like, looking back, I like that it was Bob Dylan's music as much as the lyrics that really drew me in, and that it was the vocals that just captured me, and yes, the harmonica. Honestly, I ended up being really surprised just how gentle the harmonica sounded on this song, because I think that's not necessarily an adjective that you would associate with a harmonica. Yeah, and that experience just made me want to check out more, and then I think I bought a greatest hits collection,
hmm
and then just kind of took it from there. yeah, very rapidly, very rapidly went deeper and deeper, and just kind of threw myself into the world of Bob Dylan, and
That's where the
yeah,
sickness started.
yeah, yeah. Is it a sickness? Is it a sickness? I
It's
mean,
a
what's a good way
good
to call it?
sickness.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I think like with every grain of sand, that's also, and I know that that's not the song that we're here to talk
Yeah.
about, but
Depending on how this goes, maybe we'll have you back to talk
yeah,
about it someday.
yeah, exactly. But Bob Dylan says that's a healing song,
hmm
so
hmm
um, it's funny to think that my sickness started with a
With a
healing
healing
song.
song. And all these years later, we're still hearing it as the closing song of the Rough and
Mm.
Rowdy Ways tour. So with that
Oh,
harmonica.
you've just seen him. You've just seen him. How was it?
Yeah, literally 2 nights ago, and by the time
Ah,
this airs, we'll in a few days this will I've seen him a couple more times. I'm seeing him tonight as well. It was amazing. I mean, what can I say, Laura? Like, it's just talk about healing. It's just when I sat down in my seat and then he came on, I was like, ah, I'm in my happy place.
aw.
He's wonderful. The current acoustic setup is just so perfect. The band is so locked in. They're physically closer together, further back on the stage, so they're further
Mm,
from us, but it just works. Every single arrangement of the Rough and Rowdy songs were completely new for the most part.
mhm.
And I mean, hearing Man in the Long Black Coat live was just magical.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I was like really nervous. I wasn't seeing the first show, and I'm still traumatized from 2024 when he played Dignity twice in the Czech Republic and then dropped it from the set list. That's one of my Grail songs that I've been chasing. And Man in the Long Black Coat is definitely on that short list.
Mm.
But he's stuck with it. Seems to be locked in to the set, and it was perfect. I mean, very much the album arrangement minus the harmonica is just great. So, yeah, I hope you're able to make it to the States sometime soon.
Oh, I hope that he keeps the song long enough so that I can see it because I love that song so much. And it's interesting that, he's been playing around with arrangements of the Rough and Rowdy Way song so much, to the point where, uh, I mean, I've been kind of saying that it really feels like he's playing with the idea of, how much he can stretch a certain song, uh, how much can you change a song around and have it still be the same song? And I mean, I think that applies even more to other songs like To Be Alone with You,
hmm
which he's completely rewritten apart from the title, really.
hmm
And it's like, is that still the same song? If it retains nothing but like the title, maybe like a couple of
Right.
other lines. But then it's interesting to hear him do something like Man in the Long Black Coat, and it's surprisingly, quote unquote, faithful to the version that's on the album.
Totally. I mean, and
Yeah.
like another one that really surprised me the other night was Lovesick. Lovesick is, I think, number 3 on my most heard list. Like, I'm good with Lovesick. I don't need to hear it again. I mean, I'm happy every time I do, but like, I've heard at the beginning of the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour, he was futzing with it and it did not work. This is back in 2021, and now it's back again. And I turned to Michael and I was like, that is the best Lovesick I've ever heard. Like, it just with the acoustic setup, it's just working. So who knows with him? Everything is, yeah, it's just he's constantly evolving and keeping things fresh and new, and no night is the same as the previous night. So yeah.
Mm.
It's crazy. So we've got a lot of lyrics to get into, and we've got a lot of versions to get into with Mississippi. But first, some stats. Love and Theft was recorded in May of 2001 and released ominously on September 11th, 2001, if you remember that. The song features Bob Dylan on vocals, guitar, and piano, Larry Campbell on mandolin, fiddle, slide guitar, banjo, kind of a one-man bluegrass band, Charlie Sexton on guitar, Augie Myers on accordion, Tony Garnier on bass, David Kemper on drums. So, Laura, why this song, and what is your relationship overall to Love and Theft?
So the reason why I chose this song is kind of a a funny one because last Wednesday, so you had invited me on your podcast and had offered me to choose a song, and I had a really hard time choosing a song,
It's so hard, I know.
because it's, you're spoiled for choice. And then on last Wednesday, I went to see Geese, everyone's
Mm.
favorite band, Geese,
Hmm.
here in London, and I went with some friends.
How was
And
that?
it was brilliant. It was great. I mean, it's just such a fun show, and just it was a lovely, almost like old school experience to just see like a great guitar band play,
Hmm.
because I feel
Hmm.
like you don't you don't get to see that as much these days. But yeah, it was really really great. I recommend everyone go see them if they can. Um, and they've got some great songs as well. Um, but so, and after the show, I was there with a couple of friends, and after the show, I was talking to a friend, and I don't even remember how it came up, but at some point we started talking about the song Mississippi,
Mm.
and she's a musician. She does a cover of the song,
Oh.
and and we both got so excited. We were already quite like happy and full of endorphins, like from having seen some great music live. But we just started shouting the lyrics to Mississippi at each other, and just but both got so ecstatic about what an amazing song this is, and just like shared in this moment where we both just reveled in like how wonderful Mississippi is. And literally a moment after, I looked at my phone and I saw a message from you saying, "Have you chosen a song yet?" And I
Me
was like,
nagging
"What?"
you.
No, no, it's fair enough. And like, to be fair, like I didn't answer till the next day, because I was like, if I go with like the rush right now, I would say Mississippi. And I was like, maybe I should sleep on this and make sure that this is really the right choice. But then the next day, I was like, actually, you know what? I think this was the universe providing me with an option. so, and so I just thought, this would be a really fun one to talk about. And I love this song so much, so um, I decided to go with this one. And my relationship with Love and Theft is, so this was the first album that came out when I was just getting into Dylan.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah,
It's my
yeah.
first
So
new Bob Dylan album.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think for that reason it will always be quite special. And I love Love and Theft so so much. And the whole album is great, and I love the whole album, but I think for lots of different reasons, which we will probably get into, I think Mississippi really stands out and stands apart and is kind of the heart of the song of the album.
Mhm.
And I just remember back then hearing that, and I don't know, maybe it's me retrospectively imposing an opinion on my old self, but I had the feeling back then that I was like, wow, this is a classic song.
Mm.
This will just become a classic Dylan song, and I think it has.
Mhm.
I think it is one of those songs that will stand the test of time and will go down as one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely to me iconic, and there are so many different versions of it, and obviously we'll get into that. And I think the one of the reasons it sort of stands alone is because it wasn't meant for this album initially, right? It was initially intended for Time Out of Mind, and for whatever reason didn't make it. And I always think of like the sliding doors of sort of what if this we never heard this song like till 25 years later, like what if it was like you've talked about Springtime in New York and like Too Late, and what if we never gotten it? Or you think of things like Abandoned Love or Caribbean Wind, like just these things that just didn't make it onto an album inexplicably. Why, Bob, why would you leave it? Blind Willie McTell, right? And this almost was like that. And and it made it, but it is kind of its own thing on this album.
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, one can theorize why certain songs didn't make an album. Why certain? Well, I think for one, I would imagine that there's a difference between songs that never got fully finished,
Hmm.
which applies to, I mean, Too Late became Foot of Pride, and
Right.
then that kind of got abandoned. And the Caribbean Wind, that felt like a song that never fully got finished, or it was finished in so many different ways that no version like fully presented itself as
Hmm.
the version.
Hmm.
Whereas with Mississippi, if you look at the different versions that are there, I mean, like there's one very early version that has slightly different lyrics, but apart from that, like the song is done.
Hmm.
It is. It's more that it feels like they're just struggling to find the right feel for it. They're just struggling to find the right musical vessel for what he's trying to do with the song. And therefore, I feel like it makes sense that this is one of the very few songs that he kept from one album and then attempted at another album. I mean, what other
Yeah.
songs are there where that's happened? I mean, you can think of um, the only one that comes to my mind, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and it's different too, is Someone's Got a Hold of My Heart, which was
Uh,
attempted for Infidels
right.
and then became Tight Connection to My Heart on
Right.
Empire Burlesque.
But yeah, it's very rare that he like once he puts something away, even if he's tinkered with it 100 times and done 100 recordings of it, like too late or whatever, it kind of goes away. And this is one of the this is one of those few instances where something makes it onto in the 60s, like the closeness of all of those albums in terms of timeline.
Actually, now that you say it, the 60s is actually a good point because, like, in the 60s, he sometimes kept things like Hollis Brown was originally recorded for Freewheelin' and then
Made it onto
got recorded
times.
for
Yeah.
Times They Are
Yeah.
Changing, and Mr. Tambourine Man was recorded for Another Side of Bob Dylan. And then,
We
anyway,
wanted
this is
to
stats. This is maybe boring, but
Oh, yeah. I mean,
but yeah, it's very
I'm a
rare.
stat
It's very
nerd,
rare.
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's great. So let's go back and look at that first
Mhm.
verse I read. So we were talking before we came on here that BobDylan.com has these verses just as three very long verses, like waiting to get to the end of that State of Mississippi a day too long, which is sort of like that type of Bob Dylan song where there's no chorus, there's like a refrain, a stanza, tangled up in blue, that kind of thing. But there's a lot to get to before that, and you kind of get that pre-chorus. So I just wanted to point out, you and I were in Tulsa, and we heard a fantastic talk by great scholar Scott Wormuth,
God,
like you,
the goat.
legendary radio host, and he's really done a lot of great work on pointing out what the theft is in Love and Theft, in quotes, and that this song, oddly, Wormuth points out that even the first verse has an almost verbatim theft. So I have nothing for you. I don't even have a self for myself anymore. So, Laura, what are some things in this first verse that kind of jump out to you, either as thefty or just that, like you said, these are beautiful lyrics? What to you was, about the from the first verse?
Yeah, I was looking at the lyrics. I think so the first verse is one of the bits that has actually changed a little bit over the course of the versions that we know.
Mhm.
Um, we know four versions from the Time Out of Mind sessions. Sorry, I'm going all the way back, but I will, I will come
No,
back to it.
this is what I want. Yeah, this is great.
And
Please.
there's one version that was very likely recorded in Oxnard, in that theater
The
that Daniel Lanois.
Teatro?
Yeah,
No?
exactly.
Yeah.
Where Daniel Lanois originally had hoped to record the album before they
Mm.
then relocated to Miami. And the lyrics that Bob Dylan sings there are I'm standing in the shadows with an aching heart. I'm looking at the world tear itself apart. Minutes turn to hours, hours turn into days. I'm still loving you in a million ways. Beautiful. Right away, my feeling is that this is so much more time out of mind, feeling wise. I don't know, the shadows, the heartache, the despair looking at the world, and the love sickness. I'm still
Mhm.
loving you in a million ways, like all of that. I think it's that I just found quite interesting, that it feels like it's much more consistent with like some of the other lyrics that you find on the album. And then um, the later version that I will also say, because we just talked about like unfinished songs, we talked about Caribbean Wind, like that
Mhm.
line about minutes turn to hours, hours turn into days, that really reminds me of that line in Caribbean Wind where he sings the days turn to minutes and the minutes turn back into hours. Don't know, it just seems
Yes.
like that just seems like a very Dylan, that just seems like a very Dylan thing he likes to do, that
Yes.
that kind of thing. um But then so he changed the lyrics and changed it to the version that we all know and love. Every step of the way, we walk the line. Your days are numbered, so are mine. And what I think is interesting here is that it continues. Time is piling up. We struggle and we scrape. We're all boxed in, nowhere to escape. And I don't think I had ever like fully noticed this before, but the line "We're all boxed in, nowhere to escape" kind of like directly contradicts every step of the way we walk the
Mm,
line, because
mm.
it starts with this kind of steady movement, and then but it's a movement that's always contained. It's always like limited, and I think that that really sets you up for this song that I think is so. I think this is an endlessly mysterious song. It's
Hmm.
so beautiful, and I think it's so profound and it's so deep, and I think it has a lot to do with the feeling of time in the song.
Which is, like you said, more towards the theme of time out of mind, like, time's running out kind of thing, where he was in that time period.
Yes, but I also think that I don't know, I don't want to make grand sweeping statements, because I think with a lot of this kind of stuff, it can be quite subjective, and I'm basing a lot of this just on like the feeling that it gives me.
Hmm.
But I think that, and maybe my feeling is informed by the fact that I know that he held this song back from Time Out of Mind and then decided to bring it into the next project and make it the heart of the next project.
Hmm.
But I do feel like Time Out of Mind, I'm sorry, Mississippi has a more open outlook than a lot of Time Out of Mind. I think Time Out of Mind, the songs are very much focusing on feeling stuck and focusing on a movement that doesn't lead you anywhere. And I mean, yes, and I think that's exactly where the song starts out. We're all boxed in, nowhere to escape.
Hmm.
I think that the song opens up, when he sings. I mean, even I know we're talking about the first verse, so I'm jumping ahead,
That's
obviously.
fine.
I think it starts out with this very almost claustrophobic feel of, I've been in trouble ever since I set my suitcase down.
Hmm.
I've got nothing for you, had nothing before, don't even have anything for myself anymore. I think
Hmm.
it's so bare, it's
Hmm.
so vulnerable, it's so open.
Hmm.
It reminds me of another line from Time Out of Mind, where he sings, when you've got nothing to lose. I think that is kind of where we're starting with Mississippi.
Hmm.
But I think, like, over the course of the song, there is a real movement towards an acceptance
Hmm.
and finding a sort of strength in being in the present. And stick with me, baby, stick with me anyhow. Things should start to get interesting right about now.
Hmm.
I think there's like a hopefulness there that,
Hmm.
you can move towards something that is I know that fortune is waiting to be kind,
Hmm.
so give me your hand and say you'll be mine. That is so much more positive and hopeful than anything else that we find on Time Out of Mind. And um, I think that movement over the course of the song is something that I find so beautiful, and really, yeah, and really profound. I feel like I didn't answer your question at all.
Who cares what my question was? I just wanted to hear you talk about it. What do you think? Because there's elements of this, of a sort of like journey of some kind, and there's elements of a love song. Is this a love song? Is he singing to someone? What's happening here narratively, in your opinion?
That is such a good question. I think Bob Dylan's love songs in recent years have been so interesting. I mean, you can look at Rough and Rowdy Ways, I've made up my mind to give myself to you is, on the one hand, one of the most beautiful love songs he's ever done, but is it just a love song?
Yeah.
It also feels like it's more than that, and it's a song about traveling, it's a song about inspiration, it's a song about being in the world, um, while also being a song about dedication and,
Hmm.
giving yourself to something or someone. And I think Mississippi is kind of in the same vein. It is one of Bob Dylan's most beautiful love songs in one
Hmm.
way, but it is also more. And um, I'm wondering if it's maybe because, Bob Dylan wrote this when he was in his mid to late 50s. At that point, he had been in several relationships, several important long-term
Hmm.
partnerships. Um, and I'm wondering if it isn't partly I don't know, meditation is maybe the wrong word, but it's kind of a song that's also about a love that occurs later in life when it's not as easy to just commit to another person because you both have like completely separate lives. You both have
Mm-hmm.
a past,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think it's about trying to make space for this other person while also retaining like your own identity, but nonetheless kind of like committing to also wanting to find a space to fuse your lives in some way.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I get from the song, which I think is a really beautiful notion.
So then, well, where is Mississippi? Like, what is Mississippi? Is he being literal, or is it like is it like Key West? Like, is it is it a state of being, a state of mind? Like, why? What was it about Mississippi that made him reflect that he stayed there too long? Like, what? Where did he stay too long?
That's such an interesting question. I mean, for one, and I'm gonna give like a slightly evasive or like an indirect answer. I think not
Hmm.
evasive because I don't want to be evasive, but I think because like the fact is, I don't
Right.
have a direct answer, right? Um, but so on the one hand, the refrain of the song, "Only one thing I did wrong, stayed in Mississippi a day too long," actually comes from an old song that was collected by Alan Lomax
Hmm.
called Rosie.
Hmm.
And that is also echoed in the line, I was
Right.
thinking about the
The next
things that
verse.
Rosie
Yeah.
said. I was sleeping in Rosie's bed. And what that reminds me of is I think Bob Dylan loves to use and always has like to use echoes of other songs or echoes of cultural reference points to kind of get across a vibe. And that's very vague. But I'm thinking, for example, that the refrain, "Only one thing I did wrong, stayed in Mississippi a day too long," like really reminds me of "Nobody Can Sing the Blues Like Blind Willie McTell."
Mm.
Because what does Blind Willie McTell have to do with the rest of the song, right?
Hmm.
But he is related to it, right?
Hmm.
And I think the song that this refrain was taken from just kind of exists in the same universe and gives a kind of atmospheric context to the song.
Hmm.
So, and I think whether that's a direct one or whether that is one that just exists in Bob Dylan's mind to the point where those were the lines that made him want to write the rest of the song, um, or if there's some more direct correlation, I don't know.
Hmm.
But but ultimately, I don't know if it necessarily matters.
Hmm.
I think there's just something about the way that Bob Dylan processes the things that he hears, the things that he reads that inspire him to write something new. And you can say that about like that particular line or about the Henry Rollins lines.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's just like part of the creative process, what jogs his brain
Hmm.
and what evokes the kind of thoughts that make him want to create the world of a song.
Do you think that in our last episode, I was talking with Michael Glover Smith about Cold Irons Bound, and he sort of thought that that song was a lot of pieces of different things put together. That it wasn't sort of a typical narrative of a thing happening or about a specific feeling or person or whatever. Do you feel that because there is some theft taken here, that this song has a straightforward narrative, or is it also kind of a hodgepodge of, like you said, references and things put together in order to create that vibe?
Thinking about a song in terms of narrative can always be a bit tricky, right? Because I think songs are so different from novels or short stories, in part because they allow for a much more visceral approach because of the music, and also because of the rhymes, and because I think sometimes rhymes just take you in different
Hmm.
directions.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, One thing that I think about is that Bob Dylan has described this song in particular as having a lot to do with the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights. That's how
Whoa.
that's how he's described this song. So maybe looking for a narrative is almost the wrong thing to look for.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I'd be curious if that's something that you recognize in the song. I mean, I'm not American.
Right.
When I read that, I was like, oh, interesting. Maybe I don't get it
What was the
because I don't
context he
have a.
said that in? I don't
Oh,
not familiar with that. Was that in like a
I will read you the quote
Oh, okay, please. Yeah.
because it's a
That's
really good
awesome.
quote. So this is actually Bob Dylan talking about why the recording for Time Out of Mind didn't work out.
Oh, great.
So, and this is from an interview 2002 or
Hmm.
4 with
Okay.
David Frick for Rolling Stone.
Okay. Okay.
And he says Mississippi was pretty much laid out intact melodically, lyrically, and structurally, but Lenoir didn't see it. Thought it was pedestrian. Took it down the Afro polyrhythm route, multi rhythm drumming, that sort of thing. Polyrhythm has its place, but it doesn't work for knife like lyrics trying to convey majesty and heroism. Maybe we had worked too hard on other things, I can't remember, but things got contentious once in the parking lot. He tried to convince me that the song had to be sexy, sexy, and more sexy. I know about sexy too. I tried to explain that the song had more to do with the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights than witch doctors, and just couldn't be thought of as some kind of ideological voodoo thing. But he had his own way of looking at things, and in the end, I had to reject this because I thought too highly of the expressive meaning behind the lyrics to bury them in some steamy cauldron of drum theory.
Wow. Drum theory. Oh, I love that. I love when Bob kind of drops those little hints of why he and Lenoir just kind of didn't work out. Like this, that totally reminds me of David Kemper telling a story about Cold Iron's Bound. We talked about it on the last episode that, that he smashed a guitar over that one, and like he just like was having temper tantrums, and Dylan stayed the course, and he was right in the end, of course. But yeah, I don't see it, the Bill of Rights thing, but now knowing that, I will look into that, and yeah,
Well,
it's
I mean,
interesting.
it is funny, and I think it's a great quote, and I think it's a very funny quote. I also think it's pretty harsh,
Oh yeah.
especially because we have the some of the versions from the Time Out of Mind sessions, and I don't hear any Afro polyrhythms. So,
Yeah.
so I think it's partly again he might be maybe going more off of a vibe that he felt wasn't right.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough, I mean, like it seemed like they had different ideas of what the songs should sound like, or particularly with this song, obviously. But I think he's maybe like overdoing it a little bit, and
Yeah.
I don't. If Daniel Lenoir really thought that Mississippi was pedestrian, I mean, I would love if someone asked him in an interview, "Did you really think that Mississippi, this particular song, was pedestrian?" Um, but I think that Bob Dylan describes it as Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Bill of Rights is also interesting because the version that ended up being on Love and Theft has this feel of like a Civil War ballad.
Hmm.
That's really like what it sounds like. And so I almost feel like when he talks about these touchstones, Bill of Rights, Constitution, it almost feels like that became more an inspiration for what he wanted it to sound like
Hmm.
as a time frame. you know,
Hmm. Right.
um,
Well,
which
the
which is
song and the
interesting.
album feels to me, if you're talking about a vibe, it feels very American. It's steeped in Americana and
Hmm.
the history of America, both good and bad. And American music is also steeped in white artists stealing from black artists. And,
Hmm.
there, so I think in that sense, sure, it is very much like, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, and in that way, very, very American. Yeah.
Talking about majesty and heroism, I think
Mm.
um, is interesting that that's two words that he associates with the song because I can definitely
Hmm.
see that. I think it has
Hmm.
a lot of majesty, and
Hmm.
even the heroism about the last verse about my ship's been split to
Hmm.
splinters,
Hmm.
and I've got nothing but affection for all those who've sailed with me. I think there
Hmm.
is like such a um, there is heroism in that.
Hmm. Second verse. Well, the devil's in the alley, mules in the stall. Say anything you want, I've heard it all. I was thinking about the things that Rosie said. I was dreaming, I was sleeping in Rosie's bed, walking through the leaves, falling through the trees, feeling like a stranger nobody sees. So many things that we never will undo. I know you're sorry. I'm sorry too. Some people will offer you your hand, some won't. Last night I knew you, tonight I don't. I need something strong to distract my mind. I'm going to look at you till my eyes go blind. Well, I got here following the Southern Star. I crossed that river just to be where you are. Only one thing that I did wrong, stayed in Mississippi a day too long. These are like just some delicious, like you could make a meal out of the Bob Dylan-y rhymes happening here. Like there's so many good ones. I don't even know where to begin.
I
Right?
mean, you're speaking of love songs. I mean, some of those lyrics are some of the most beautiful love songs. I mean, I'm gonna look at you till my eyes go blind.
Yeah.
Ah,
Like how did
uh,
he think of that line? You know?
that is just so so beautiful. Yeah, but I mean, this song has a lot of references to old songs.
hmm
"Devil's in the Alley," "Mule Kicking in the Stall," like those are all old blues lyrics.
hmm
Um, and
You
if
mentioned the
we,
Rosie thing.
yeah, exactly the Rosie thing. And it's interesting that this line with two references to old songs is followed with "Say anything you wanna, I have heard it all," because that it almost feels like a reference not just to, you know, what a person might be saying, but also to the songs. You know, that he's so familiar with these songs that they have become second nature. They have become part of his vocabulary, and
Right.
they have been for decades, you know. But I think "Say anything you wanna, I have heard it all" kind of also reminds me of the, you know, weary or just kind of or wise traveling minstrel musician who is so familiar in this world and sees the world through the eyes of these songs,
Yeah.
you know, which is what we know that Dylan does, and like this is what he's doing in all these songs by bringing um, bits and pieces from songs that are, you know, that are almost by now from a different time, you know, from a different world, but he kind of keeps bringing them into the present, keeps
Right.
bringing them into his songs and making them current, and acting as a kind of historian in that way, as a historian of music, historian of American history through
hmm
songs.
hmm
You know, I think that is such a um, crucial role that Bob Dylan is playing, and I think in that sense he's really um, I yeah, I think he is so unique in that way because, you know, he's won the Nobel Prize for literature, and um, in his Nobel speech, you know, he talks about the works of literature that have inspired him, but he starts with the folk songs. You know, he starts by saying, you know, these are folk, that this is my vernacular.
Right.
And I think that is such a crucial, crucial part of who he is as a writer, you know, that is the world that he draws on, and the well of inspiration as well, you know, that um, Bob Dylan never works out of a vacuum. And I mean, you know,
Right.
the fewest people do. But I think for him, um, the impression that I get is that it's always the these old songs, these old rhythms, these old melodies that inspire him and kind of get him to new places. And yeah, this leads back to what we were saying about, you know, the refrain in this song, or the refrain of Blind Willie McTell. They
hmm
all, you know, lead him back to something that then catapults him into something new.
hmm
And I think if I if you look at this song as well, which is so much about, like so many of Bob Dylan's songs, you know, I think he so often meditates on the past, present, and future, and that the past is gone, the future is not real. You know, all you have is the present, but like, where does that leave you?
hmm
And you know, you can always come back, but you can't come back all the way.
hmm
Um,
Right. You're different
and
every time. You can yeah, it's like every time you've changed a little bit. Like you can't.
no man steps into the same river twice,
Right.
is Heraclitus,
Mm.
which
Mm.
is everything's flowing all at the same time. It's
Mm.
I wrote a whole essay on that at some point. I've got no, you know, I'm drowning in the poison, got no future, got no past.
hmm
You know, but my heart is not weary. it's light and it's free.
Mm,
It's so beautiful, you know. It's
hmm
again, I'm just jumping from lyric to lyric, but I think, but basically, I think like the second verse, I think is really taking us into this American past. It's
Yeah.
really taking us into this tradition of songs that is this wellspring of inspiration, and then also has like these beautiful
hmm
lyrics of love and um, yearning.
I always thought that that second line, "say anything you wanna, I have heard it all," was a little prophetic. Shocking, Bob Dylan was prophetic. I mean, this album literally coming out on 9/11, but we'll get into that in a minute. But
Yeah.
that, I remember back in 2002 or afterwards that immediately the Boo Birds were coming out like Bob Dylan is a thief, plagiarist, about this album. And I remember on my iPod having a playlist of all the songs that were were the originals that this album was lifted from. That the context was like someone put it out as like a scathing review, and like my Dylan buddies and I were like, "Ooh, let's make a playlist of this, and see what inspired Bob Dylan." But my point is that I felt like by putting love and theft in quotes, Bob Dylan knew what he was doing in terms of kind of putting it out there like I know what you're going to do. I know you're going to attack me for this. I've heard it all before. There's nothing you can say that I haven't heard before. Like I lived through the 60s, I was booed on stage. I lived through the Christian period. People were pissed off. I was written off as a has-been before this album. And so bring it. That's how I always felt that line was. Like there's nothing you could say like he's Teflon. What
Yeah.
do you think about that take?
I like that. I
Thanks.
think that's, yeah, I think that's very much, that definitely applies as well. And, the title Love and Theft, I mean, lots of people have spoken on that, including Scott Wormuth's great
Hmm.
talk in Tulsa last summer. Um, but it is, of course, based on the book Love and Theft by
Hmm.
Eric Lott. I mean,
Hmm.
the title's taken from that, which is
Hmm.
about blackface and
Hmm.
minstrelsy in American history. And of course, I mean, I think the title is like really interesting in relation to the album in a lot of different ways, including because it contains so many different voices
Hmm.
um, in these songs that seem so deeply American, even though some of the voices are from Japan. Um, Junichi Saga is, I hope that's, I get the name right, but the two books of his about Japanese culture are all over the lyrics of this album. Although I think maybe not necessarily the song, but and yet in this new context they appear like so deeply entrenched in American history, and I also think that the love and theft, like a lot of people are focusing on the theft part, the fact that he took so much, but also there's so much love
So much.
in this as well. And I don't just mean like in the sense that there are songs that are about love, but also I think it strikes me as a very loving tribute to
Yes.
these songs that he's
His love for
writing.
these great
Yeah,
songs. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It's they're lifted
Lovingly.
because, yeah, exactly, lovingly. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Yeah. There's a great quote from David Kempner. He has a great quote also about Cold Iron's Bound, but he like this guy like he's like had no problem sharing all the secrets from the studio. So he says, "We thought we were done with Love and Theft, and then a friend of Bob's passed him a note and said, 'Oh yeah, I forgot about this, Mississippi.' And then he made a comment, 'Did you guys ever bring the version we did at the Lanois sessions?' And they said, 'Yeah, we have it right here.' And he said, 'Let's listen to it.' So they put it up on the big speakers, and I said, 'Damn, release it.' But it was just me and Tony, and Larry wasn't on it, and Charlie wasn't on it. So we all just said, 'Wait a minute.' And Daniel is a producer on it. Let's re-record it." So we did our version of it. And it's like the simplicity of that. I love that. Like it's kind of like what happened with Cold Iron's Bound. Like they just went into the studio, Bob wrote it, he heard this weird drum beat and kind of wrote a song and then just did it. That's the kind of that's like rock and roll to me. Like just go into the studio, do it and get it done with the guys you have. And one of the things I really love about Love and Theft is how smaller it is. Like it's the Jack Frost album. Take the live touring band, put them in a studio and do it live. And I think that is one of the things that makes it different from Time Out of Mind. And this song worked perfectly for it.
Yes, and so I was listening to the different versions. I would bet that I can tell you if this actually happened like this. Like I feel like I can tell which version they put on in the studio because there's one that's so close to the version that ended up on Love and Theft.
Was it
And
version 3 on Telltale Signs? Is that what you were
no,
thinking? Oh, okay. Or
no.
maybe was it
Act-
outtake 3 on Fragments? Because that's what I thought felt.
so weirdly, the version I'm talking about is
Uh,
called version one on Fragments.
okay.
And it's strange because as you just hinted at, when Telltale Signs came out in 2008, there were two versions of Mississippi on the usual version, and
Right.
then there was this like super expensive third disc that everyone, I hope, only pirated, as did I. I definitely didn't have the money to buy it back then, so I just downloaded it. Um, but there was a third version on there. But I'm talking about the one version that wasn't on Telltale Signs. I'm talking about the one version that we only got when Fragments came out.
Hmm.
And it's very interesting because I think like for so many reasons that's such a fantastic version.
Hmm.
Almost that I was wondering whether whoever was putting that together for Telltale Signs was maybe thinking this is too close to Love and Theft. Either we don't want to give that away, or this is not as interesting for the listeners. But for some reason, that version got dropped. Also because Bob flubs a couple of lyrics, which doesn't really matter.
Yeah, who
But
cares?
yeah, we don't care, right?
Yeah.
But maybe in 2008 they still had a different approach where everything had to be
Perfect. Yeah.
complete and
Yeah.
perfect. I don't know. But yeah, that version I think is pretty close to the Love and Theft version. Have you listened to that one? Do you
Yeah,
know
of
what I'm
course.
talking
Of
about?
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to play it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so that we're on the same page, that you know which one
So
I'm talking
so
about.
we're at
Version one. I mean,
yeah.
we don't have to listen to the whole one.
Yeah. This one?
No.
This
No.
one?
No.
This one?
No.
Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Not live in Washington. It's this one.
Yes.
Ah, with the pedal steel. Yeah. So you think that one is the closest to Time Out of Mind?
Yes. To Love and Theft. Yeah.
To Love and Theft. Okay. Oh, okay. That's what I thought you were saying
That,
which one is closest to Time Out of Mind.
oh,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
It's
So
because it's
we
more
were on different
rocky.
pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
even the melody and the rhythm and I I just think it's like a few of the versions on Time Out of Mind. I think if someone would ask me like what I think they should have done differently is I think they're too fast.
Mm.
Apart from like the very first version that's like really kind of like slow and more stripped back. I
Mm.
mean, it's not the first version, but it was the first version that appeared on Telltale Signs. So in my mind, is the first version. They didn't do like the best job numbering them on the different releases.
No, in
It
fact,
even
in Fragments, there's like when it has a bunch of them in a row, it says outtake version 3, then 2, then 1 or something. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, it goes version 1,
yeah,
version 3, version 2. Like, why?
yeah, yeah. It's confusing. Um, but yeah, to me that version is the closest to that. So that's just what I'm saying. Like if they ended up putting a particular version on in the studio during the Love and Theft sessions to refresh their memory,
Hmm.
I could imagine that was maybe the version that they were listening to. That was my point.
Okay, okay. Totally. I mean, I could see that. Yeah. I mean, did you in Tulsa, did you spend time in the little booth where you could mix your own Mississippi in and how much
Not
time did you spend?
enough.
Oh, not enough.
Ah,
I spent
not
a
enough
full
because there were
hour
so
in that
many.
room.
You know what? I want to go back when I have more time
Yeah.
because just the last few times, whenever I was at the Bob Dylan Center, I was there for the conference.
Right. Right.
And not only were there so many other things that, we had to attend or wanted to attend, but also there were so many other Bob Dylan fans around. I
I
didn't want to
know.
hog the
Oh.
jukebox. I didn't want to be rude. I wanted other people to also have fun. So
The last
yeah,
day, I
it
think
was fun.
that's when I just made the choice like I'm not going to anything at the conference. I just got to go spend time at the, I think that
Yeah.
the, like as soon as they opened, I was there for like 4 hours and, that was it. But yeah, you got to go back and spend time because that's really fun because, there's like this little exhibit, folks that don't know that where you can go into a little recording booth and I think there's 4 or 5 songs. It's like Knock on Heaven's Door from Pat Garrett, uh,
Most of the time,
Most of the
some of
Time
them.
from a Mercy, the Mississippi from the Time Out of Mind sessions, but
Mhm.
it's Love and Death. And then is it like Rolling Stone or something?
Maybe.
Yeah, and
I don't
I
remember.
don't remember. Anyway, and you can take out the organ, put it back in, put it higher. You can kind of the you could be the producer, and yeah, I spent so much time there. I tried to like record it on the headphones from my
Ah,
phone. I don't think it came out,
nice. Yeah,
but
your perfect individual mix. Yeah,
exactly, yeah, the Henry's version, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I love that, and the two, I mean, to me, the two iconic versions that live rent free in my head are the Love and Theft one because of the that opening riff, the do 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 do, and then on Telltale Signs because that was the first, I think, the first single they released from Telltale Signs with the do 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 do
Mhm.
do 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 do. I mean,
Very stripped back.
that
Yeah.
just Telltale Signs is my Bob Dylan comfort album. Like if I'm like having an anxiety attack or like I need to fall asleep, I'm on an airplane or something. Like if I put that on, and this isn't I don't mean this to be insulting to Bob Dylan. I mean this to be complimentary. Like I'll fall asleep in a second after when I hear that do 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 do. It's just like it immediately calms me. I love that version. That's it's hard for me to like pick a favorite other than the main than the album version, but that I just love. I love playing that on guitar. It's just like it's so I don't know. What's your
Yeah.
favorite version?
Yeah, it moves around. I think like
Mm.
the amazing thing with Bob Dylan is that I think uh, through the years I have often very confidently claimed that a certain version is my absolute favorite, and then a couple of months, years later, I changed my mind. So I think uh, the main thing that I've learned is not to pick definitive favorites anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I will say that recently I've been really loving this version that we
That
just
you just played.
listened to,
Mm.
just because it's because it's the newest one to me,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
that was only released on Fragments,
Hmm.
and so it kind of adds another puzzle piece, which is always really fun.
Hmm.
Another puzzle piece to kind of the history of the song. Um, but I think that there is something to all the versions from Time Out of Mind. I think they're really compelling. I mean, the kind of more stripped back version that you just mentioned is also just so beautiful because um, it shows like such a different attempt at the song because it sounds so different.
Hmm.
And that wasn't even the earliest version because the earliest version is the one with the different lyrics,
Hmm.
um, which I also think is a great version because I'm often really drawn to the very early attempts at a song because I think, um, and this is, I think, also something that Bob Dylan really values. I think when a song is new, there is something to the artist's delivery when you still have like the urgency of trying to, sing a song into existence for the first time or for one of the first times.
Hmm.
And to put that down, I think always captures something like some essence that subsequent versions can sometimes only chase. And I think in the case of the album version, I think that is a stunning version because I think it really captures, the majesty and the heroism and all of that everything that Bob Dylan's been talking about, what he really, how he really sees the lyrics and, the essence of the song that he cares about. I think the album version really captures. Um, but I'm really glad that we have those early versions so that we kind of see the song's origin story. And I think particularly that very, very early version with the alternate lyrics is very dear to me because I think
Mm.
it shows that kind of the little seed from which the song sprouted.
Well, Mississippi has been performed a sparse 74 times, so it's officially a rarity. First on
Mm,
October 9th, 2001, at the Jackson County Fair in, wait for it, not Jackson, Mississippi, but Central Point, Oregon, which just that tickles me.
sure. Yeah.
And last on November 19th, 2012 in Philadelphia. So, Laura, I know you've seen Bob Dylan live because we've seen him together in two different
Mhm.
countries, which is pretty cool. But have you ever caught a Mississippi?
I have not. And I was looking at the places where he's played the song, and he played it in London in 2011.
You
And
weren't there?
I was trying to remember for the life of me what I was doing that day
Yeah.
because I wasn't seeing Bob Dylan apparently. And it's crazy to me to think that there was maybe a time in my life where I wasn't prioritizing
I
Bob
know.
Dylan over everything else.
I know. It drives me crazy when like there are
I know.
Chicago shows I just wasn't at. Why? Why did
Yeah.
I go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really don't know what happened because I'm pretty sure I think I saw him in 2011, just not in London. But unfortunately, one of the
You
London shows, he brought out Mississippi. And I mean, that is one of the songs that I would really love to hear live. And it's
Me too.
also, I will say, and I'm saying this like as often as I can, because I'm trying to manifest, I'm trying to speak this into existence. Uh, I think this is a song that would make so much sense in the context of the current set,
Agreed.
because we're talking about again this meditation on time and the passing of time and uh, coming to terms with having a past and maybe having a past that rolls out so much further than the road that lies ahead.
Hmm.
I think I'm paraphrasing Two of Us by the Beatles. Um, but I think that would work so well in the same set as, for example, I Contain Multitudes, Today
Yep.
and Tomorrow, and Yesterday Too. Um, yeah, and I hope someone reminds him. I hope someone reminds him of this song. Maybe you can just like shout it out and suggest it.
Okay.
Like,
I'll do
just
it tonight.
oh my God, please imagine if he hears that and then brought it back.
Brings it
Like
back
I
the
feel like
next night when I won't be there. Yeah.
I feel like maybe a polite heckle is like, Bob, please consider playing Mississippi. It doesn't have to be right now, but maybe at some point in the future. It would be really great. It would really work.
I'm gonna do it just so when you hear the tape later, you could be like, "Oh, I told Henry to do
Yes.
that."
Yes.
Well, my
Yes.
ship's been split to splinters and it's sinking fast. I'm drowning in the poison. Got no future, got no past. But my heart is not weary. It's light and it's free. I've got nothing but affection for those who sailed with me. Everybody's moving if they ain't already there. Everybody got to move somewhere. Stick with me, baby. Stick with me anyhow. Things should start to get interesting right about now. My clothes are wet, tight on my skin, not as tight as the corner that I painted myself in. I know that fortune is waiting to be kind, so give me your hand and say you'll be mine. While the emptiness is endless, cold as the clay, you can always come back, but you can't come back all the way. Only one thing I did wrong. Stayed in Mississippi a day too long. I think this stanza, the last one, I mean, save the best for last. This one has the most iconic lines that like I use in my everyday
Mm,
conversation,
yeah.
mostly Bob Dylan related, but like like I'm already imagining like, the post about this episode saying, I got nothing effect but affection for those who sailed with me. Things about like that. Like I'll even about that the first night of the tour. I think I posted something where I was like, things should start to get interesting right about now,
Mm,
because he this one has so many of those iconic
yeah.
lines that like I could imagine you standing on the street yelling these lines to your friend back and forth after a show, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I completely agree. It is really, um, this song just has so many incredible, like almost one-liners, that have become indispensable to us as Dylan fans. And
Like put them all on a t-shirt, all of these.
yeah, and honestly, like would deserve to enter like the English language as kind of standing idioms,
Hmm.
like like Shakespearean
Hmm.
idioms. Um, it's yeah, it's so good. It's just no, it's just so so beautiful. And again, I think there's so much. It's such an edifying song. I think it really it's
Say more on that.
and well, because again, we're talking about the song that was conceived of and recorded during the sessions for Time Out of Mind, but
Hmm.
this song is almost like the opposite of Not Dark Yet.
Right.
You know, it
Or
has
standing in the
warble.
doorway or
Yeah, 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 yeah. But I think specifically Not Dark Yet. It's not
right.
dark yet, but it's getting there. And
Mm.
this is saying, I know that fortune is waiting to be kind. So
Mm.
give me your hand and say you'll be mine. This is like a song that is looking. If it's getting dark, then this is the sunset that you're still riding into. Before it gets dark.
Hmm.
This song is like utterly um life affirming, you know? And whenever I hear it, it gives me like it kind of, it makes me stand up a little straighter, you
Yeah.
know? It really, it nourishes my soul, the song. Um, and again, I think it's, my heart is not weary, it's
Hmm.
light and it's free.
Hmm.
I've got nothing but affection for all those who sailed with me. I mean, are those not just like some of the most beautiful
I know. Yeah.
lines? And I was wondering whether, because I do think it's a song that to me seems very personal. I think
Mm.
it's a very I think it comes from a very personal place, even if it doesn't sound super autobiographical or
It's a
whatever.
little vulnerable too.
It's
Like, saying
yeah.
like, I know you're sorry, I'm sorry too. Like anytime Bob Dylan apologizes in a song, like, oh, you know.
Yeah. But it's about making peace.
Hmm.
I think it's about making peace with what was before,
Mm.
um, and kind of like finding yourself where you are,
Hmm.
like for better or worse.
Hmm.
So I think it's a very it has like a real spiritual edge to it.
Well, like you said
And
earlier, like a meditation.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think the line about my ship's been split to splinters and it's sinking fast, um, that's also so interesting. It's about like what has come before is gone.
Mm.
Whatever I've built, whatever I've achieved previously, I
Hmm.
cannot, I can no longer coast on that.
Hmm.
And um, now I'm standing here and I have to move forward. There is no going back. You can always go back, but you can't come back all the way.
Hmm.
Um, and I was also, I mean, like, I don't know if that's like, I was thinking about like this, the paradox of the ship of Theseus.
Hmm.
Um, if you replace a ship like with, uh, if a ship is replaced, if all the parts of a ship are replaced, is it still the same
It's the
ship,
same
right?
ship. Yeah.
Um, which I think we can say that about the Rough and Rowdy Way songs, by the way. It's like,
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, but that leads us back to like what we were talking about earlier.
Right.
But again, like the ship has been split to splinters, and what are the splinters? They're no good
Hmm.
anymore, it's sinking fast. I'm drowning in the poison. I don't know. I'm just saying the
Hmm.
lyrics now,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
because I think that they are just so powerful and um,
He's spelling it out in that second verse, got no future, got no past. Like,
mhm.
how many times does Bob Dylan need to tell us that he is a person who he's the ultimate living in the present person.
Yeah,
And that you see that when you go to see him. Like, if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, that's on you. He lives in the present. And here he's actually spelling it out. Got no future, got no past. Like that I am a person who lives in the present, and if you don't understand that, you don't know me.
yeah, yeah, and I think it's also interesting because um,
And that makes his heart light and free, I think, So yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's necessary. You have to
Yeah.
constantly rid yourself of what's been before, otherwise you get weighed down, and then your heart can't be light or free. I've been reading the Robert Polito book After the
Mm.
Flood,
Hmm.
which is great, and he writes about some early lyric drafts for Time Out of Mind that I wasn't familiar with because they're in the archive and I still haven't made it to the archive. There's so many examples of lyrics that really suggest that he was going into the writing of this album from a place where he was really, grappling with what am I doing? Am I washed up? What's happening to my creativity? Have I still got it? You
Hmm.
know, um, can I still can write something that is relevant in some way? And I think a lot of that ended up being transmuted into lyrics that are a bit more general and less intensely, like making himself less intensely vulnerable to the critics or the listeners or whatever, which I think is understandable. But I think it is interesting to think of those kind of thoughts as the starting place for the songs, and and then Mississippi being almost, first of all, being like written in the same vein, like also coming from this place. It's like, what about this past that weighs so heavily? I mean, Bob Dylan in the 90s was already an icon,
Yeah.
and had so much legacy already weighing him down and so many expectations, like all his career. Um, but then I think like Mississippi almost works as a kind of absolution where he's like, I can't just let go of this. I can just move on from this and I can just rid myself of this past because if I say I don't have a past, no one else gets to put that on me. And I think that's quite a powerful. I think that's why this verse to me also reads so powerful because it speaks that into existence, I think, or sings it into existence rather.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, I was just thinking about how, time out of mind, and you can see this there's a whole exhibit on time out of mind in Tulsa at the Bob Dylan Center about the triumph that was time out of mind. I mean,
Yeah.
he was written off, right? It's considered, I didn't write him off. I mean, I don't consider Time Out of Mind a comeback album, but the general music industry considered a comeback album. He won Grammy for Album of the Year,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big deal
Deserved.
yeah, well, obviously well deserved. He won it for best vocal performance for Cold Iron's Bound, and he won it for best contemporary folk album because if Bob Dylan is nominated for best contemporary folk album, then who else is going to win it? um, like that was a huge deal. And then I think, there was the sort of rush of that, and then like, and then back to the road. And then 4 years later, this comes out, and I think by then his heart is not weary, it is light and it's free. All of that um, heaviness that Time Out of Mind had, I mean, I think it was sort of let free by both its triumph, its acceptance as a masterpiece, and kind of just the getting it out, like getting all of that stuff out of him into the onto paper and into our ears. That I think by Love and Theft, he's ready to rock and roll. And I think he has said about Time Out of Mind that I think he wanted more up-tempo songs, and there aren't really that many. And here there's a good number of up-tempo songs.
Yeah.
He's rocking and rolling by this time. So I think that that feeling of being light and free is really present in this song
Mm.
overall and this album overall.
Yeah, but I mean, exactly, and I think that's why it's interesting that this is a song that he originally did record for Time Out
Yes.
of Mind,
Yeah. Yeah.
where and that's what I mean about almost like speaking that into existence or singing
Yeah.
that into existence,
Yeah.
um, and why I think it's it worked out so brilliantly that he ended up leaving this song off this record that was mostly chronicling a very different state of mind, was still kind of processing the darkness that preceded that kind of breakthrough. Because, like, Mississippi, in some way, I think it does feel like a breakthrough. And it's beautiful that this song ended up. I think it was a good thing that the song was left out of
Me
off
too.
of Time Out of Mind,
Yeah.
and then became the kind of heart of Love and Theft.
Yeah.
Well, I think Mississippi is a song that will always stand out on that would always stand out on any album.
It even stands out on these compilations like Telltale
Yeah,
Signs and
yeah,
Fragments. That I always
totally.
focus on those. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And just because it's such a big song, I mean,
Hmm.
Love and Theft has so many beautiful and gorgeous songs, but I think Mississippi is just like it exists kind of in a realm of its own almost, and we love that.
We love that. What do you think about the track placement as track number two? So like Love and Theft kind of puts you into the world of Love and Theft with the fade in of Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And then you get to track two and it's like, oh, Mississippi. Okay. Like where do you think it's like perfect or do you think like that could have been, the opening track or, like maybe you haven't thought about that.
No, I mean, no, it is really interesting. I think the second track is kind of, it's, it's not as, it would be a very bold statement to make it the opening song, right? I mean, that would really, I don't know, announce the album with this
Hmm.
like grand gesture, this grand opening. Um, but maybe then it would also announce the album with a kind of tone that will then not be sustained like throughout the rest of the album, right?
Hmm.
Because I think because again, like it does kind of stand apart in tone from the rest of the album. So I think maybe opening with Tweedledum and Tweedledee, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, whichever
Hmm.
way around,
Hmm.
um, is kind of more in keeping with the rest of the
Hmm.
album. But I'm glad that it's track two because
Me too.
I think it works. I think
Yeah.
it's I'm not going to say that Bob made a mistake there,
He knew
I
what he
think
was doing. Yeah.
I think he knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Great. Well, Laura, is there anything else you'd like to say about Mississippi, Love and Theft, Bob Dylan in general? Is there anything we
Uh,
missed that you had prepared? I don't want to cut you short.
no, you know what? I think we covered pretty much everything. Oh, I mean, it's not really like a big note, but I just wanted
Mhm.
to mention that one of the different lyrics that was on the Oxnard
Mm.
version, he sings, "Winter goes into summer, summer goes into fall. I look into the mirror, don't see anything at all." And I think that touches on like a couple of things that we've talked about. Like on the one hand, um, this that he was coming from this place of uncertainty, that's kind of like the mindset that he was in when he was writing the bulk of Time Out of Mind and Mississippi as well. And then it kind of Mississippi changed a little bit and maybe transcended that feeling a bit. Um, but this idea, I look into the mirror, don't see anything at all, is so, it's so disorienting. It says so much about that he didn't even see himself. But then I think it's interesting that that is kind of echoed in another line that did make it into the finished song, where he says, feeling like a stranger that nobody sees." That we go from this version where he doesn't see himself to the feeling like a stranger that nobody sees. And I mean, I did like a big, I think that might have been a Patreon episode actually. Everyone, if you want to hear it, you can you can
Oh
check it out on
yeah.
my Patreon.
Yeah.
But because I think the figure of the stranger is a really interesting one in Bob Dylan's songs, and I think the way that Mississippi stands in that tradition as a song that Bob Dylan wrote when he had been steadily touring for about a decade at that point, and the song is so much about traveling, and if anything, you asked about the meaning or the significance of that line, only one thing that I did wrong, stayed in Mississippi a day too long. Of course, I think we have to mention that so much of Bob Dylan's life is spent on the road,
Hmm.
and that I think the idea of stasis or stagnation or standstill as something that can get you into trouble,
Mm.
in lots of
Mm.
different ways. I mean,
Mm.
uh, in a very literal way, I think like what's kind of implied in the song is like, you get into trouble with the law or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
But I think it can also just be that if you're someone that needs constant reinvention, needs constant movement, needs to avoid standstill, then, staying anywhere a day too long spells out trouble as well. So I think that's kind of interesting as well. And but of course also this idea of like the constant movement, um, also kind of signifying a kind of homelessness and signifying that you're constantly, wherever you go, you're a stranger. and that comes with its own sort of isolation, and it comes with its own, with sacrifices,
Hmm.
and sacrifices that Bob Dylan is surely familiar with as someone who has given up so much in order to sustain the lifestyle of a traveling musician, in order to, bring his performances to audiences worldwide. I think I think that's just something that's also very much at the heart of this song. And of course, that's also why the line "I've got nothing but affection for all those who sailed with me" resonates with so many Dylan fans, because we see ourselves as the people that have sailed with him,
Right.
because we're the ones that, that go see him, and
The ride or dies. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that's another reason why this song works so well, because I think it draws us all in as well, and I think it makes us all uh, feel a part of what he's singing about, which I think is really beautiful. And I think another reason why this song is so special.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to give you a chance to tell us where folks can find you, and if there's anything you'd like to plug, and then I have an exit question for you, so an impossible exit question for you. So,
Oh,
where can folks
exciting.
find you, and what would you like to plug?
You can find my podcast, Definitely Dylan, on all podcast platforms. I think I can plug this. This is kind of a new thing, but hopefully by April
Oh,
15th,
breaking
um,
news.
yeah, hopefully by April 15th, this will already have gone out as well. I'm starting a new segment on the podcast, a new regular segment with my friend Rebecca Slayman,
Nice.
um, that we're calling Bob Dylan Hotline, where we are inviting people to send us questions that we will answer as part of the podcast. I think
Love
this will
that.
be a really fun new thing, and I'm excited to be talking to Rebecca regularly, because she's great.
Yeah, she is.
And but yeah, I will also continue to do my more involved episodes. I've been working on one about Man in the Long Black Coat for
Oh
ages,
my
and now
God,
he's
how
and now
perfect.
and I know and now he's brought it back into the set list, and it feels like someone told him that I've been struggling, and now he's like, Laura, now's the time, just put it
Yeah,
out.
you
So
manifested it for us.
yeah, and now I really need to actually like finish it and put it out. So, but yeah, so there will be more episodes of that nature as well. I have a Patreon where I post bonus episodes and revisit old radio episodes, which are also fun. And we have a monthly Zoom discussion, which is
Mm,
also really cool, with like a
very fun.
very interesting group of people.
Yes.
The conversations are always great. And
Yeah.
yeah, last night we were just on the Patreon Zoom when Bob Dylan announced his Patreon. So
Oh
that was an
God.
interesting parallel. Um, yeah, and apart from that, I'm on social media. Def Dylan, Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter anymore. I have
Me
a
neither.
I have a neglected TikTok where I sometimes post, but mostly on Instagram.
Like
Yeah,
Bob
that's
Dylan.
me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm just like Bob Dylan, mostly on Instagram and Patreon. Yeah.
Laura, where did you I've always wondered this. I can't believe I never asked you how did you come up with the phrase definitely Dylan? I
Oh
love
yeah,
alliteration. As you saw in your intro, I gave a lot of alliteration, so I
yeah.
always
That was nice.
it's so iconic.
Ah, thank you. Well, I started this. So the show started as a radio show,
Right.
and I needed a title. And I was just thinking, what would work as a just I don't know, as a radio show title for a show about Bob Dylan. And I was thinking about all the songs from the '60s that have like um, ad adverbs in front of the song title, so positively 4th Street,
Oh.
Queen Jane approximately, like all of those songs that are quite obviously Five Believers.
Uh-huh.
There are quite a few of those, and I thought that was really fun. So I was like, well, why not definitely Dylan
That's
as
so
the
cool.
alliteration, and yeah, so that was how that came about, and yeah, and now I'm
That's
stuck with
amazing.
it.
That's amazing. Well, I'll say, as a longtime patron of yours, Henry B, I love
Oh,
hearing my name called out on your podcast. So, and I will say, like, it is a really good value, and the Zoom calls are worth it, and the extra content of your radio shows and old radio shows and new stuff episodes are great. The one show that lives rent free in my mind is because I remember where I was when I heard it was I was in Memphis exactly a year ago for two shows, listening, walking around a Walgreens trying to get some allergy medicine or something, and listening to your "When I Paint My Masterpiece" episode, and which is like just a beloved episode to me. I've listened to it multiple times. So I would say to everyone, like, go check out Laura's Patreon. It's great.
Thank you so much. That When I Paint My Masterpiece episode was one of my favorites that I've done on the podcast, and then yeah, I did like a little Patreon extra for it as well, which yeah, I'm so glad you enjoyed that one because that one was very dear to me as
Oh,
well.
good. That means I have good taste, I guess.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, Laura. So, since you have put out there, you've manifested, you've put it into the universe, Mississippi.
Hmm.
I'm saying it's coming back to the set list. Maybe this summer in June with his little Dylan's version of Outlaw tour or
Sure.
whatever, or later this year. Mississippi is coming back. Which version would you choose and why?
Oh, Henry, I think the only correct answer is whichever version Bob Dylan feels like playing.
Beautiful, beautiful. Of course,
You
that's
know,
right.
that's not up to me. That's up to him.
You know it was up to me. Yeah. That's great. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laura. This was so fun.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime, anytime. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Look for the next episode on the 15th day of the month in all of your podcast feeds. If you're subscribing to Apple Podcasts, please take a moment and give us a rating or review. It's the best way to spread the word about the show. For a video version of the podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Songs of Bob Dylan. You can, of course, email us at songsofbobdylan@gmail.com. Thank you to my friend and mentor, Rob Kelly, for designing our fabulous logo, and to my mandolin teacher, Mark Mitchell, from the Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago, for teaching me how to play the intro and the outro. If you'd like to help support the cost of hosting my podcasts, go to patreon.com/gonzo3249. For $5, I'll show my gratitude by giving you a shout out. So thank you to Rob Kelly, Joachim Meckel, Roberta Rakove, Matt Simonson, Christopher Vani. For $10, I'll send you a surprise piece of vintage Bob Dylan merch. So thank you to the girl from the North Country, Katie Sorovic. Speaking of merch, I have a store. Lots of fun stickers, shirts, hats, and other goodies for you. So check it out at henryjbernstein.com. Thank you to my Substack subscribers, Mark Godfrey, Linda Maltzby, Nancy Cobb, and Peter White. You can check that out at henrybernstein.substack.com. Truly, I love you all. Thank you again, and see you next time.